speak today to motion 49 on mental health, and there's no question, I don't think, in anyone's mind here today, the importance of dealing with this issue directly and ensuring that things are A, done right in terms of mental health services, but B, that they're done quickly, because every day we wait or we stall is more heartache that can come out of it. The motion, as it is written, talks about Lexi Dakin, a 16-year-old that succumbed to the mental health issues that she was facing, but more importantly, the lack of care that she received when she asked for it. In my small community of Minto, where Lexi and her family have roots, when we heard of the news, it was absolutely devastating. And the ripple effect from that heartache went not just across New Brunswick, but frankly across the country and across the continent. And it highlighted that what happened to Lexi, unfortunately, happens all too often in similar scenarios. And I think any parent here felt that heartache and pain and could sympathize with the family. I had the honor of being at the funeral, and I've had the heartache of looking in the family's eyes over that devastation and the strength of both Shauna and Chris and Lexi's siblings to push forward even in the midst of heartache, because they want change. And I do commend the Minister of Health for taking that challenge on. I believe her when she says she has an intent and a passion to create change and to fix this broken system. And I was pleased to see the 21 recommendations that she put out here yesterday in relation to a healthcare model in relation to mental health. And one of the key things that I seen in those recommendations was that of virtual care. And I know we've talked about this, or I've talked about it a lot. The member from Miramichi, Michelle Conroy, have talked about it a lot. The need for virtual care in our hospitals to help alleviate the gap of in-person, eyeball-to-eyeball care that we seem to fail to get when it comes to mental health help at our hospitals and through our healthcare system. And I was pleased to see that in those 21 recommendations, that virtual care is now going to be an option so that you can recruit physicians, psychologists, psychiatrists, and other trained mental health professionals to be there when they need it. Because at the end of the day, and this shouldn't be a time thing, this should be an immediate thing, that no one, especially a minor, should ever in any one of our hospitals be turned away because they have suicidal thoughts, because they have mental health issues that they're dealing with, and they go, because most children, teenagers, they're quiet. They sometimes, because of the teenage years, they feel isolated, and when you put mental health problems on top of that, it exasperates that feeling of isolation and aloneness. And so many of them will not talk about what they're dealing with. And I'm glad to see all of the society bringing forward these things about talking about, especially when it comes to kids. So when you have someone that's in the prime of their life and in their teenage years, when you have that individual that steps out and says, I need help, that step alone is incredibly brave and courageous for them to be able to say, I need help. And I think of not only the family that was affected by this tragedy, but I think of the counselor that sat with her in the hospital, waiting for some help, only to be turned away. I saw the pain in her eyes. I know her personally. She's a good woman that wants to do best for her students and for those she tries to help. And she did everything she was supposed to do. I was talking to another teacher that talked about, when they make the difficult decision, to escalate their students to a hospital, to take them to an emergency room to get checked out for mental health issues. One teacher told me it's just a roll of the dice. You may get the help you need, you may not. And frankly, that's just unacceptable in every way, shape, and form. I understand that this is not that the full scope of the solution to the mental health crisis that we often face in New Brunswick, and whether we're talking about teen mental health issues or adult mental health issues, whether we want to throw in addiction in the midst of that, I understand that there's no silver bullet that's going to fix all of this. I understand that sometimes the needs are very great, and sometimes government is trying to grapple with how do we provide the best service. And I think to myself, if someone approached an ER with chest pains, claiming to have a heart attack, they would triage them immediately and make sure they get the care that they need to either rule out a heart attack, or if they are indeed having a heart attack, get right in there and do what needs to be done to save that person's life. And I do believe when it comes to mental health at this scale, when they present themselves, that same type of triage needs to be done. They have to take it no different than the person who feels like their life is in jeopardy. That's why I can certainly support this motion in an attempt to, again, speed it up. And when I look at some of the parts of the original interdepartmental addiction and mental health action plan, I see things in here that are good. I think it lays out some good ideas in how to change the system so that healthcare can respond to mental health challenges. But there's some things in here that when I look at the timeline of these things, and on page 5, it lays out that 5-year phased-in approach. And it says here for 2022, talking about initiate psychiatry resource strategy, recruitment, retention, distribution, and access. So the question that immediately comes to my mind is, why would we wait until 2022 to start initiating psychiatry resource strategy for recruitment, retention, distribution, and access? Why do we have to wait until 2024 to develop a service model for individuals presenting with neurodevelopmental disorders? I understand things take time, and I understand you want things done right, but I also understand lives very well hang in the balance, as we've seen. So, Mr. Speaker, I believe that as the Department of Health, and again, the Minister of Health, and I want to say again, I've had many discussions with the Minister. I don't think anybody in here can reasonably question her passion or her desire to see these things fixed. And I just want her to know that, myself and my colleagues, and I'm sure others, are here to do what we can to help her accomplish that task of better care, better health care for mental health services. But I do think there has to be a little bit of pressure, not just on the Minister, but more importantly on the healthcare system as a whole, to say we need this done expedited. We need this done sooner rather than later. Because if we don't, what happens if between now and the next 3 years, is there certain gaps that are going to continue to go unfilled? Is there going to be more people turned away because, of the time allotted to some of these changes? I understand the challenges, and I don't want to be naive to the barriers that the minister faces and the Department of Health faces. And it's not unique to New Brunswick. I think we would be extremely naive if we said this is just a New Brunswick issue. It's not. We know that. This is across the country. You can pick your province. Excuse me. It's the same issue that goes right across not just Canada, I would dare say North America, and probably the world. However, time is of the essence, and our young people are depending on a system that is there for them when they need it. And Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I just want to say again that I will support this motion as it is brought forward, and I do so not in any way to try to undermine the Minister of Health and what she's trying to do, or to try to even so much criticize what she's trying to do. But I support the motion in an effort to try to encourage her and to encourage the Department of Health to expedite this process of mental health services and seeing them grow. And I guess I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.